I didn't plan anything. I didn't expect this today. I came here out of just meeting Abby recently, and meeting a couple of members from Out and Proud at an event I run for queer black men specifically. I could talk a bit about that, but I think I'll start with who I am. My name is Lloyd, as you know. Young Lloyd is another name, and Ife I like to be known as. I met Abby years ago in 2010, if I can remember, as part of Abby's journey as an asylum seeker. And one of the, as one will know, if it's applying for asylum seeker, it's proven to you, British state, that you are fleeing or not only persecution, that you are part of the LGBT plus community. And one of the strengths in Abby's case was community, and being part of that community, I feel, was successful in the outcome of his application. And I recently met Abby again. He's telling me that he's successfully running Out and Proud. He invited me to come here today. So I came here today, and Abby asked me to say a little bit more about myself. Abby mentioned my background, professional background, and my professional background is independent sexual violence advocate. What that means is I'm a qualified advocate to support victims and survivors of domestic violence, hate crime, or any form of crime that you report to the police. And my role is to support any individual through that criminal justice process. It's a very interesting position to be in. It requires me to be a face of the community, and I feel very proud to be a black face of the community. One of the areas that I like to talk about is in my work, I come across victim survivors from our community that don't want to report. They want to talk about the violence that they experience, but they don't want to report it. And I raised the question, why? I now know that from my own experiences and talking to victim survivors, they often talk about their past experiences that impact on trusting the British system, trusting the British judicial system, and that determines whether they want to report or not. But living with abuse is not something that you can recover from quite easily. Part of reporting is about going through the process of recovery. But when we talk about abuse, abuse could be different levels of abuse. And I'm not saying that everyone here has experienced some form of abuse. I think everybody here can talk about themselves or know someone who has experienced abuse and a negative experience of reporting it to the authorities, whether this report was in their home country, as I hear, or whether it's to the British system here as part of their asylum seek claim, or whether it's just experienced that through a relationship. They're very different types of abuse or violence that are posed upon us. I'm not here to unpick that. What I'm here to talk about briefly, if it's okay, is about the struggles, what it means to report to the police, and what are some of the issues that we face when reporting to the police if we choose to. And I think instead of me talking, if anybody would like to give me a reason why they don't want to report to the police or crime to the police. Any suggestions, reasons why? Members explained or survivors of have spoken to me about, if you report to the police, this will likely to interfere with your Home Office application. That's a myth and it's untrue. As an advocate, I would support and encourage, where there are myths and stereotypes linked to why we don't report, is to encourage victims to think about the recovery aspect, the health aspect of the experience, rather than what is likely to come out of reporting to the police. It's not just an international issue. Myself, as a British-born black male, have experienced the same type of negative experiences from the police. And as an advocate, I use my own personal experience and my experience from the community to support, where necessary, somebody who wants to report to the police, where they experience some form of abuse or sexual violence. But what I do know within our own community is that and this community, whether it's British community or African community, as we just talked about, we grow up in where we don't talk about our business. There's a British term about we don't air our dirty laundry in public. What that means is, to me, in my understanding, we don't go to the police. We try and deal with it in-house. But the sufferance and pain doesn't go away. You still live with that experience. It's what you do with that experience is why I want to talk more about it. Because the experience you can only overcome that experience through recognizing that you are hurt. You are hurt by your experiences. And my role as an advocate is not only to support the individual through the criminal justice system, it's to identify appropriate support tailored to our specific needs, whether it's a woman, trans man, bi man, non-binary person from black community. My role is to identify appropriate source services that will support that individual through their recovery. There are often times when victims would report to the police, but also looking to maintain their support within the community, and that's something that's very difficult to manage, the victims often say, especially if the abuser comes from within our community. And that is partly what I do. When I say support, it's from report to the end. Some of the cases I've worked with go to court, some don't go to court. It's understanding what that means and the impact of when you feel you've been let down by the judicial system. And I can explain cases that go to court, they have to reach a 99.9% threshold. What that means is you need to convince a jury that what has happened, the evidence is there to support it. So it's not about whether the English system believes you or not. It's more about the police gathering that evidence. And I can talk a little bit about gathering evidence. And I've often talked to victims about the privacy of evidence, because police investigation can be intrusive. They can ask you personal questions. They can ask you questions about your sexuality and the relationship with the person that's hurt you. And it can often mean embarrassing answers, or victims often saying, "Why are you asking me this?" And victims often withhold that information in fear of what I've spoken about. It can impact on your asylum seek claim. As I said, that's not the case. The judicial system is not there to judge anyone. And my role as an advocate is to ensure that the police, the courts, judges do not judge anyone about their sexuality or make reference to their sexuality in making a judgment whether or not a case that's brought to the system is a true case or not. Just a little bit about myself. I will ask anyone, feel free to ask me any questions. I'm not going to be only here today. We were talking to Abby about doing some regular drop-ins, whether if people want to talk to me privately, because I know abuse or violence not only takes place in public, and in activities we do, it also takes place in relationships. And as I said, I've come from a background where you're not supposed to tell anyone about your experiences, let alone the police. But at the same time, we're living with that perpetrator in our community. And when I say perpetrator, that's a term to describe an offender. That's someone that's done harm. So I'd invite anyone to ask me any questions that they want to ask me right now. Anything you feel you want to ask.
My question is, so how do you help, let's say, someone who is in fear to come out?
Your name is again, sorry?
My name is Bridget.
Bridget.
Yeah.
Hi, Bridget. Good question. And there's quite a few questions within that question you asked.
Yeah.
There are legal frameworks in the criminal justice system. One is Section 28 that gives privacy to victims, giving statement. You know, there's also anonymous reporting. I'm in that position to report on behalf. But there's also the role I play, which is unique. I can support an individual by first, how do I do that? Talking to them, establish what are the fears, try and alleviate some of the fears as I talked about. Some of the fears can come from personal experience, or this is what your friend said, your brother or sister said to you is going to happen. So what I do start off with, I try to create a dialogue by creating a safe space. That's For example, meeting somebody who wants to talk about their experience in private, considering confidentiality, but also explaining my role. And first begins with explaining, listening, what is your experience? What is it that you want to avoid? You're quite right. Being reported, you get exposed. And that sometimes brings about shame, embarrassment, trying to explain yourself, or trying to navigate alongside what you have to do, what else you have to do, i.e. you have to apply for asylum and so forth. So it begins with creating a safe space for that individual to talk to me and to establish what are the concerns. And if you haven't reported, let's do that, I would offer options of reporting. One of them, I could accompany you to the police station. I have relationships with the police. That's my role. I'm qualified to go into a police station. I'm qualified to support an individual in a police station. So if one wants to report, I can accompany them to the police station. If there is issues about going to the police station, what I can do is organise where a police officer can come and meet you here, for example, in private, and you can do that initial report. There are stages when you report. As you know, you pick up the phone, you dial 999, that's initial report, but that doesn't start the investigation. What you've first done is you reported it. What victims often do is pick up the phone, dial 999 and feel that's the end of it, they report it. That's the first step. The second step is the police taking a statement from you. And that is called the ABE, and that's actual ABE. I got it now. But it's a term used to describe achieving best evidence, and that is a statement. And a statement is a piece of document that is submitted to the court if the case goes to court. So in doing an ABE, we can do it at a police station. I said I will support anyone from the beginning, male or female. Gender identity's got nothing to do with it. If you're from our community, I will ensure that you get the best support. So I'll talk through what options you have available to you, and we work out what's best for you. If you choose that I want to go to the police station, I can liaise with the police on your behalf to meet with you in a private space where you can talk about your experience, where you don't feel threatened by being in the police station or threatened by any other interference that may put you in a position where you cannot talk openly about what you experience. There's other options of reporting, online reporting. I've introduced a victim recently that was going through the same situation, and I said you can report online. What does that mean, report online? All you're just doing is getting a crime reference number. That's the first step. 999, online reporting is getting a crime reference. After that, then the police contact you from doing the online report and then arrange to meet with you. Ordinarily, it's at a police station. Second, at your home. Or if you can negotiate, which I do, at a safe place. There's a third option which is called anonymous reporting, and that comes out of public safety. And I talk about this because I mentioned earlier that victims often talk about reporting someone from their own community and how that is difficult to deal with because the person's part of our community. And how do I, for example, go to GAY and knowing the perpetrator's in there behind the bar? So anonymous reporting is about public safety. And I use this tool to highlight, if you don't feel you want to report, part of my role in my organisation, I can do anonymous reporting where your details is not shared with the police, but the perpetrators are where did it happen? Crompton Street. Where? Because the likelihood this person's done it to you is more likely they'll do it again. And the police using, if you heard of the word intelligence gathering, we hear that in our community, intelligence, what that means is the police use information from third person to gather evidence to support a crime where the victim doesn't name. In that process, the police would like to ask further questions. You've given details of a suspect that is white, tall, got a beard, they may want to ask you more information. They will come through me, and I will come back to you, and I'll say, the police has contacted me through this anonymous reporting. Do you want to meet the police? Because part of reporting, as I said, is recovery. It's healing. You've made the first step to recovery, to recover from this ordeal. I'm not saying it will go away. So I do recognise that a month from now, a week from now, you could be in a different position where you feel, I want to do this on my own, but I still need Lloyd. That's the biggest factor in why our community don't report. That's the biggest factor for asylum seekers that don't report. I believe in testimonies, sharing experiences. If one of you has experienced something from sexual violence or domestic violence and I successfully supported you, I'm sure you'll tell someone this has happened. And that's the beginning. We need to, and I mentioned earlier about the culture we come in, whether it's from the Caribbean, whether it's from Africa, don't air your dirty laundry. We need to change that mindset. We need to change that perception. We cannot continue to live in secrecy with abuse. But the only way we're going to overturn it is if we get cases, for Abby's case. The reason why you're here listening to Abby's got a testimony to say his journey was successful based on these steps. And it's documenting that, not documenting for legal, is sharing those steps with others. And that's what I hope. Me being here is giving everybody some hope that somebody look like you, not female, look like you who could support you and you can trust. And that's the beginning. It's trusting the network and support we have in our community and building on that. Working with organisations like Abby, like Out and Proud and other organisations. We need to trust each other to build a community. And that only starts with testimonies. Testimonies to say, look, I worked with Lloyd on this issue and I don't want to say it to myself, but you say it was good. It was successful. Lloyd helped me in the court. This is what, same thing with Abby. You know, you come here and share, this is what it can happen in the applying for asylum or applying for British citizenship. But if you do it this way, because I have done it, it brings something of calmness to the expectations you may carrying that often is from hearing from our community that often really is not really true. So it's dispelling these untrue and using testimony to say this is a member's experience. It's going to take a while. I'm not going to expect to change overnight, but I'm hoping building a relationship where we can work together and produce testimonies of support and publicising these, others will come out and believe that they can do this. One of the areas that I'm trying to develop is this notion that men don't experience domestic violence or sexual violence. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. You know, but we're fighting against masculinity and perceived to be weak if we don't acknowledge the harm. But you have to remember, if that person does it to you, they can do it to someone else. But we need to fight these stereotypes or myths that because you're male you need to live up to this expectation. Yes, it's part of our upbringing, it's instilled in our growth, but at the same time it's not helping us, it's not helping others, because not everybody is in that position to sit here and talk about it like I am. Not being confident to come here and openly stand up and say my name is so, I'm from that. And I say that to end with, not everybody's confident to stand up and say where they come from, but it can only be achieved when they feel that the space is safe to do that. And that's what I picked up earlier. There was a hesitation in doing it, but we gradually all did it because we saw one do it, the other one do it, and I was okay, I can do it. I can say where I'm from, I can say my tribe. And that's what enabled us as a community to grow. Because it's better to share the experience rather than live with the trauma and expect to recover. And I think it's important. And I want to say thank you for having me. I didn't expect this at all.